In this week's episode of A Drier Dose of Disney, Jared discusses surviving the parks with food allergies with some special guests.
Welcome to another episode of A Drier Dose of Disney. I'm your host, Jared Dreyer, and today we have special guests Brett and Marissa back with us again. Thanks for coming back on the show, you guys.
Thanks for having us back.
Thank you, Mr. Dreyer. It's a pleasure.
We appreciate it. It means we didn't screw up the last time.
No, you guys did great. You guys did great. Your episode has gotten a lot of attention out there talking about the disabilities in the park, so that was great. Thank you for that. Today, you guys can tell we are recording in a different environment. We are down in the Dreyer basement over at Dreyer Manor here. And I want to applaud you guys for joining in on the theme with me wearing Star Wars gear. You guys on the video can see our whole basement is decorated with Star Wars. We're big Star Wars fans here. So we've got the arcade games, the pinball, the art, the whole 9 yards, and even a blanket on our table today. And you guys came sporting your Star Wars stuff. So I appreciate it.
Rocking it.
We're all Star Wars fans, so this is the perfect environment.
Yeah, it's real easy. And I'm wearing a new shirt that my wife got me for Christmas. So
is that the Millennium
really
Falcon?
Nice.
Yeah, it's got the Millennium Falcon on it. So
I like it.
Yeah,
it's like undercover Star Wars.
Yes, I love it. It's a great shirt. So I had to break it out for today's episode, being in the basement, and wanted to change up the scenery a little bit. So we're not always recording at the table when we've got guests.
Sounds
perfect.
So today we are going to be talking about allergies in the parks. Yeah. But before we dive into it, I do want to ask, wherever you're listening to us or if you're watching us on YouTube, go ahead and click the pause button and go down and subscribe to us. It's free to subscribe wherever you're listening to us or if you're watching us on YouTube. And then if you find any tips or tricks that we talk about today when we talk about allergies that help you out or help save you money, save you time, make your life a little bit easier, we'd appreciate your support over at Patreon. And the link for that's down in the description as well. And those that support us at Patreon do get early access to our Butterbeer and How to Go to Disney for almost free episodes, which we will be bringing onto the main channel later this year and replacing it with some other premium content. So a lot of cool things going on over at Patreon. So we definitely want to get you guys over there. And then as always, we do have a Facebook page and we encourage you to join our Facebook page, follow us over there. And if you have any questions or you're looking for additional tips and tricks, you can reach us at Drier Dose of Disney over on Facebook. So cool place to congregate and share those secrets. But going back to allergies is what we want to talk about today. And I know a lot of people have a lot of different allergies. And I'm going to ask you guys in a minute to talk about your guys' family allergy that you have to deal with because it's more serious than some of the others.
Yeah.
But even myself, I have a guava allergy and I don't run into guava a whole lot. I have seen it a couple times at the parks and it's easy for me to avoid guava. Your guys' is a little more difficult. And I know that people also have gluten allergies and all kinds of different fruits, but there's a ton of different allergies out there in the world. And I know people are very afraid of their family getting hurt or having something happen to them. So they want to be conscientious of that. And at a theme park, they can't always control the environment, what's going on.
Can I ask you a quick question? So what type of reaction do you have when you consume or come into contact with guava?
So if I have guava, I found this out from drinking a large glass of actually guava juice when I was in high school and immediately started getting hives head to toe and started just breaking out everywhere. And so my parents immediately called the doctor and he's like, Benadryl. So he said, just start dosing them up with Benadryl. And if it doesn't start going down in an hour or two, bring them in. And so they dosed me up and I had hives all over my body for about a day and a half.
Wow.
So that's a scary allergy, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, it was treatable.
Yes.
And everything's okay. We have in our family, our youngest daughter has a peanut allergy. And what's scary about that allergy that we discovered when she first was diagnosed with the allergy is she had a full-blown anaphylaxis reaction. So that anaphylactic reaction actually became so scary that she then was prescribed 2 EpiPens. And unfortunately, if she were to come in contact again, which thank goodness she hasn't for the past 12 years, she hasn't had a second exposure. Yep. But if she were to, those two EpiPens may or may not even give her enough time to get to the ambulance. So obviously, as you can imagine, going to school on a day-to-day basis is scary. But when you go to a park, a theme park, where you really have no control over what's around you, it's really important that you visit the parks to where you have a strong understanding of the ingredients and what you're consuming. Otherwise, you're packing a meal. Who wants to go to Disney and Universal, though, without enjoying the treats, right? We all love the restaurants and the treats.
Yeah. And I think that it was important that you brought that up because I think that depending on the severity of the allergy, and the philosophy that the family has on how to manage the allergy, that's going to dictate whether you're going to trust a situation or not. There are some situations that are safer than others, and we'll get into how we knew that it's safe at Disney. But I know that there's some families that if it's as severe as our daughter Addison's allergy, they won't eat out at all. And that does give you total control over what your child is consuming. So I get that.
It limits you.
Yeah, I get that. But we took on the philosophy that we're going to be as careful as we possibly can. We're going to ask the appropriate questions. We're going to do the things that are within our control to keep her as safe as possible. If a situation sounds risky, she doesn't eat there. We'll go eat somewhere else or find a different situation for her. But I just want to say that because if you're a family that's decided you're not going to eat out at restaurants and you're going to only eat at home, I'm not encouraging you to say, oh, you need to change your whole philosophy. Obviously, you're going to stick to your guns on what you think is appropriate. Mm-hmm. And if you're going to bring food to Disney, then that's the way you're going to feel safest. And maybe you'll have less anxiety that way and be able to enjoy yourself. But we're going to talk about how we enjoy the parks with our philosophy of how to handle the allergy. And that is just being as careful as we can and allowing her to learn to advocate for herself and take care of herself now that she's old, to make sure that she's super careful too and is able to enjoy things in a way that she's taking steps, but not saying I'm absolutely going to.
When we were pass holders in Disneyland 7 or 8 years ago, did they allow us to bring in outside food? Do you remember what? Okay.
Yeah.
That's what's so nice about it.
Yeah, they definitely allow that. We brought in a lot of snacks ourselves just for snacks as we go through the parks. Yeah. And of course, you can bring in your outside beverages. You can bring in your water bottle, stuff like that. So you're right. Every family's got to make the decision for what's right for them and their situation. And if they want to play it safe and make sure that they're not going to be exposed, they can take those precautions and bring in their own food. But you guys do like to enjoy the parks. Yeah. We've had a great trip with you guys recently.
Yep.
And it was a learning experience for us just because peanuts are very prevalent throughout all the parks.
Yeah.
Almost every single food restaurant stand has some kind of peanut element. Some of them are wrapped individually and maybe a little bit more safe. Some of them are cooking behind the counter. Tell me, how do you guys approach it when you guys are going to go get food at the parks to make sure that she's not consuming peanuts?
Sure. So I think that we have found some restaurants there that we know are good, but either way, we would approach the establishment and we would just make sure that we ask a lot of questions about how things are prepared and what their allergy information is. And so we would ask questions like, do you guys sell anything here at the store that has any peanut products? They would let us know yes or no, what those things are.
Or restaurant.
Yeah, or restaurant. And then we would ask, is it available for our daughter's items to be prepared separately away from those ingredients? Because as in a lot of restaurants, they have all of the ingredients out. Let's say ice cream, right? First night we were there, we did bubble waffles. And so you love peanut butter, and not at home, but when we're out, sometimes you'll have peanut butter if you can do it safely. So you got your peanut butter bubble waffle that has Reese's and everything on there. So when you go to a restaurant like that or a stand, they have all the ingredients next to each other, which means peanut products can then accidentally be mixed in. And we've gotten things at restaurants where, not at Disney, but at other places where it has been mixed. There's always a risk of that. So what we do is we ask that hers will be taken from containers in the back so that it does, so that it's right from the store.
They're very accommodating.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about that? Yeah. The request for having them get ingredients from the back.
Absolutely. So again, whether we're talking about the Disney parks or whether we're talking about the Universal parks, both are accommodating. I would say that Disney, again, not only is it the happiest place on earth, but it is the most accommodating place on earth, as we said back in the disability episode. One thing about Disney, too, that we knew in advance, which also made us feel safe, because when we were pass holders, our daughter, we had already known about her allergy, right? Fortunately, some of her allergies she's grown out of. She's grown out of an allergy. She's grown out of a hazelnut allergy. Almonds many times are prepared in restaurants that serve savory food. Hazelnut, Nutella, you'll sometimes find that in places with treats. The fact that she no longer has those allergies, this most recent trip we went on, we were only worried about peanuts. It used to be any nuts at all. That was a tricky conversation. It would limit the number of restaurants we could go to. At Disney, though, you can ask them if you could see. Sometimes you don't even have to ask them, because it's as soon as you say that you have an allergy, they will say, hold on a second. Many times they'll go to the back. They'll get whichever head chef is working that particular restaurant. There's always one at every restaurant They will then come out. They will ask you exactly what your allergy is. The next thing they will do is they will provide you with a binder. In that binder, there'll be laminated sheets of every single item on their menu and a full list of ingredients. We read every single item on the ingredient list for a particular menu selection that she's interested in having. We don't care about all of the pages or necessarily the ones that we. If it's a main ingredient, that's one thing. But if it says at the bottom in bold, may contain or has come into contact with, then we sometimes might order it ourselves, but we make sure that she doesn't share anything that we eat. So it is very accommodating in a sense that it gives you all the information you need. You have to make sure you're willing to not rush. Take your time when you go to a park. There's enough other advantages. Again, we have another daughter with a disability access pass. So we're gaining a ton of time on the rides when it comes to the lines. So when it comes to actually eating, safety first. And it sometimes delays things a little longer, but it's worth it.
Doesn't matter.
She gets to eat food that she would want to have. She
Like,
doesn't feel left out anymore.
And it could literally take. So we're not going to take chances. And what was funny, Jared, is, okay, so when we get back.
Do you mind if we call you Jared, or do you prefer Mr. Dryer?
No, you're good. Jared's perfect.
I don't know how formal
calling him Mr. Dryer. Yeah. Okay.
He looks for his dad when we say that.
Yeah.
So when we got back from this trip, it was because we all sat down and Jared got real serious and he was like, guys, I've got to talk to you about this.
Yep.
I thought it was an intervention.
He's like, I don't want to offend you or anything. But do you think Addison could have outgrown her allergy? Because there's no way we could have eaten at all these places because we went to every park.
Yep. We ate everything.
We didn't eat everything.
We ate everything.
Talk about that thought. We literally eat ourselves around the world.
Yes. We did. Well, and you guys know I love to eat, and we just did our food series. So our listeners, you guys know that as well.
I don't.
And
we all love to eat.
We love to eat. And you guys know that when we go to the parks, we love the rides. We love all that, but we love the food, trying everything. So we eat a lot. But keep going.
Right?
Yeah, keep going.
Try it. So he was so concerned. He was like, I think you need to get her tested because what are the odds? Like, statistically, you're thinking, what are the odds that we ate all of these different places? Almost all of them had peanut products somewhere.
Yes.
But how did we not come into contact with something somewhere along the way? And we let him know we do periodically get her retested, and she still does have a very severe allergy. But I think that is the thing that has been so impressive for us is not only at Disney parks, but everywhere. But if you ask the right questions and you're cautious and you go that extra mile to say, we're not going to take chances, but if people can do something to help avoid it, then we're going to trust that they're going to do their best to do that. Of course, if we have our 2 EpiPens with us.
Sure. So that prompts a good question here.
Yeah.
So the question that I have is, of course, you're asking what are the ingredients? You're making sure that there's no cross-contamination. And we can talk more about cross-contamination because my question is around that. So Brett, you're eating a peanut butter bubble waffle. And you get that to yourself because you know you can't share it with her. And if you can't share it with her, you don't share it with your other daughter, right?
No.
So you keep it fair.
Not a lot of sharing happening.
Yeah. But they are obviously preparing a peanut butter item at the same time they're doing her item.
In the same shop.
In the same place. And what other precautions? You mentioned you have the EpiPen. What other precautions do you take to make sure she's protected?
Sure. So you have to make sure that, and we have a double EpiPen. So we make sure we have that twin pack of EpiPens with us. That is the first thing we check for before we leave for the park. And you guys know how it is. It's crazy when you're leaving for the park in the morning, especially for us. Like just getting all of our stuff together, making sure we have everything we need, like our keys and everything like that. And we get to the car, we make sure we have the EpiPens. Do not go to the park without them because not only, like even if you bring your own food, you could sit down somewhere where someone's had peanut butter.
It's Russian roulette. You don't do it.
So the other thing we bring are wet ones or Clorox wipes, a little pack of those in our fanny pack. You can get those small thin packets and we'll just take it and we'll wipe down the table every time we go to eat and we wipe down her seat to keep it as fast as possible. So she doesn't switch seats. She just sits in one seat. We wipe down her seat, wipe down the table to make sure that there isn't any residue.
That helps with where we're sitting. But let's say at the Bubble Waffle place that we went to at Disney Springs.
Yeah.
We actually asked them which one would be the safest. So we will actually ask them which one is the safest. Not she can have anything on the menu that doesn't have peanut products in it. We want to know which one is prepared far enough away from the peanut. Can you please use a different serving item, whether it's a clean spoon from the back? Many times it ends up that she has to have maybe a fruit topping rather than sprinkles, because many times sprinkles are right next to the almonds and the peanuts. So we don't chance that. So yes, it does limit what she's able to have, but at least she's able to enjoy something there with everyone else.
And like we said, sometimes they will have sprinkles, but in a container in the back, like that comes from the
original
factory.
Container.
Right. That has not been around cross-contamination. If that's the case, then we'll let her have it because they're serving from that separate container that's away from everything and it's more secure. They also have usually a separate place where they prep the items that she gets. So they have a special like allergy, like cutting board or area that they use to prep it. They'll wear separate gloves, and then they also use separate clean utensils that have been freshly sanitized that we know could not have any chance of being contaminated, cross-contaminated. And so they do that extra step. They make sure that they have that available if you ask for it. And there's very few places that we went where there wasn't something that Addison could have. Yeah, there's some areas that you do run into where she can't.
So coffee, Starbucks is something that we've always enjoyed. So we usually, many times we'll grab a Starbucks either on our way in, whether it's downtown Disney in California, Disney Springs, Universal City Walk, wherever it is, we'll grab a Starbucks. Many times we'll do it actually in the park. When we were living in California, again, we weren't sure at that point in time that she had outgrown her almond allergy. So she still had it. So when it comes to Starbucks, which was always a scary place, almond milk was used in many of their drinks.
Yep.
So she wasn't able to have many of the beverages that they had there. She wasn't able to have any of the pastries that were in the case at the time. However, what's great about Disney is the safest Starbucks we ever went to was the one at California Adventure, because there was a cookie that was individually wrapped. There was a gluten-free muffin. Was it Udi's or Rudy's? What's the name of it?
I believe it's Udi's.
Udi's?
Yeah, they have Udi's blueberry muffins.
Oh, they love the muffin.
Even when they could have gluten and there were other options, they loved those Udi muffins that they had, that they would warm up for them in the package. They're individually wrapped, and that helps with, like we talked about, gluten allergies as well.
It's an allergy control item. So if you can tolerate the taste, some people love gluten-free. We went through a season where that's all we had. That actually made it very easy for us to guard against potential allergens, because they made sure that the facility in which the gluten-free were prepared in a separate dedicated area. Yeah. So when you're seeing an individually packaged gluten-free pastry, by looking at those ingredients, it's going to be very minimal in ingredients, and they rarely would have any peanut contamination. So that actually helped.
And that's a great point. So I know just from using the app, because you guys know one of my favorite things is the My Disney Experience app, and the fact you can do mobile orders and you can pre-order all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
They have plant-based foods on there now. You know, it's sections for that. They have gluten-free on the menus now. So if gluten's your allergy, or maybe you're a vegetarian and you want something that's meat-free, you can do plant-based diets through the app. You can see gluten-free items through the app. And you can know exactly where can I go to get those types of items. Now, peanuts, you're going to have to go in and talk to every single restaurant usually, just to be sure.
We double check.
Yeah, you got to double check.
Yep.
Did you know something that's unique about Disney, which is, again, attractive to us, knowing that we had one of our daughters was going to require a disability access pass due to her diabetes, type 1 diabetes. But then our other daughter had a very serious food allergy. But Disney made us feel more comfortable living in California than even like Magic Mountain and other places, because Disney Parks and Resorts actually were recipients of the FARE Award, F-A-R-E. FARE stands for the Food Allergy Research and Education Award. And that award was given to Disney for providing a safe and enjoyable dining experience. So one nice thing about Disney is they have had to check a lot of boxes in order to gain that particular designation, just to kind of juxtapose that from sporting events that we like to go to. We live in Denver, Colorado. And a couple of sporting events that we enjoy going to, obviously a Denver Broncos game, but let's say a Colorado Rockies game at Coors Field. Love to go see the Nuggets or the Avalanche down at the stadium downtown. The problem with going to a hockey game, an Avalanche game, or really a baseball game is because you're surrounded by it. So the amount of control you have when you've got Cracker Jacks flying, when you've got people cracking peanut shells.
Yeah, shelling peanuts.
Honestly, it's much safer to go to a Disney park in the height of how busy they could possibly be in the year than it is to go to a baseball game in an afternoon with nobody there, which unfortunately the Rockies aren't very good, so nobody ever goes. I feel safer going to a crowded Disney park.
That's a great point. So that makes me curious. You said both Disney and Universal are accommodating.
Yeah, both
So
definitely are.
Are there differences between the two?
I never want to sound rude towards Universal.
No, you're
I love
okay.
Universal.
They got
Don't
great
get me wrong.
butterbeer, and butterbeer is safe.
They do.
Unless you're allergic to
Butterbeer is
sugar
safe.
and the diabetes, right?
Right. You have to be careful. Like with Ashlyn type 1, she can have it, but she definitely has to
Yep,
dose.
she
and
got a
have
dose.
A lot of insulin. So I would say with Universal, they do have options for allergies, just like Disney. And if you ask, they provide the accommodations like Disney. I would say that I just feel like at Disney, generally, you just get such a warm attitude and helpfulness from anyone you deal with any of these issues that makes it just feel so much less stressful because you can tell that they really genuinely want to help you and they want you to have a really good time. And so they will go the extra mile anytime that they can to make it happen if it can happen at each establishment you go to.
Okay.
The language is a little different between Disney and Universal, okay?
Okay.
And language is everything. So at Disney, they will actually say this particular item is allergy-free, peanut-free, is definitely not in potential contamination with that particular allergen. At Universal, again, I have a law degree, so I have a feeling there's been a few lawsuits, so they have to change the language and they've softened it to allergy-friendly. And what they say is a disclaimer to their allergy-friendly options is while that particular ingredient may not have been used, there is definitely the potential of cross-contamination. As a parent, the potential of cross-contamination is a little more nerve-wracking than allergy-free. We absolutely prepared it in a space from that particular allergen. Again, it's probably why we would lean toward Disney. We still go to Universal, but the amount of options available to us are more limited because allergy-friendly makes me a little more nervous than allergy-free.
Sure.
Yeah. We have to ask more questions. I feel like at Disney, they have a system set up. They do have the allergy binders where you can read every single ingredient. Y'all know if you have an allergy in the home, you read ingredient lists all day long, but you do. Anything you're going to cook, when you go to the grocery store, I'm preparing a recipe. You are grabbing things and reading every ingredient list before you put that in the cart to make sure it's going to be safe. So we're very fast at reading ingredient lists, which is nice, but they provide that binder. So it's not a guessing situation. No. And I'm sure
it speaks for itself.
Yes. And that fair award was probably given because of their system. They not only go the extra mile, but they do provide all of the information we need when we're going to be maneuvering allergies in the park. And they even oftentimes provide the chef to answer those extra questions that you may have that aren't answered by the ingredient list.
What's funny about that is that many times what the chef does is they'll point to a particular page and have you read it. Again, I appreciate that. My temperament appreciates that. Being a parent of someone with a serious allergy appreciates that. Having, again, a legal background, I appreciate that because they let the ingredient list speak for itself. What we have found at Universal is the app or the menu might say, with an asterisk, this is allergy friendly, but they don't give you the binder. So now you're having a conversation with someone that we have to trust is well versed in every ingredient of how that particular item is prepared. I'd rather see a binder that has been thoughtfully and carefully probably reviewed by their attorneys and their dietitians and their head chefs to know what's going to be in that.
I feel like you can tell a difference in the level of training between the staff at both parks. And so then you might have a lot more confusion, I feel like, at Universal, where when you're asking questions, you're hearing a lot of, I'm not sure. I don't know. And for us, that means then she can't eat here. So we have to go somewhere else.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Looking at menus with you guys when we were out there in October, there were a lot of different menus we looked at. There are actual restaurants, there are actual places that have no peanuts on site, no peanut products in the restaurant. Going in, okay, you're free to go. This one's safe. Except for the 2-year-old with the Uncrustable over at the table that we got to wipe up. But aside from that, anything you're going to order is going to be safe. So correct me if I'm wrong, at Universal, that may be the way to go if you're trying to avoid something.
It is, but what's interesting about that is that particular accommodation, that particular menu could change visit to visit.
Very true.
That's unfortunate. I feel like Disney is more consistent. Again, if not, then the binder, not even each of those sheets will show you. I'll have a date that states when it was most recently edited. So then we're not talking about what it was back in 2014, but this was actually reviewed recently. At Universal, sometimes those particular restaurants, I could have sworn that was an allergy friendly. Now it's not showing that. I wonder what happened. Did a peanut get into that? Now they're not even promising us that. Universal, I feel like it's not as consistent. So it does make me nervous to find that peanut free restaurant because it changes.
So the moral of the story is eat safe, eat barbecue.
Yeah.
I love barbecue. I say that in every single episode, how much I love my barbecue.
Right.
Eat safe, eat barbecue.
Eat
Eat
barbecue. If you read the ingredients.
Yeah. So one question that I have, and then we'll go into our tip of the day,
Okay.
because I asked you guys to prepare a tip of the day. One question that I have, though, and I've asked this of you guys recently, but I know some of our listeners may be curious about this, and I apologize. I didn't put it on my list of questions. I'm sure listeners are curious if somebody has a peanut allergy. Talk about peanut oil. So
Sure.
cooking in peanut oil, you have one daughter who works at Chick-fil-A,
Yes,
and they use peanut oil at Chick-fil-A.
they do.
Talk to us about that. Does that impact
Sure.
anything?
So when we were brand new allergy babies and we had our baby get diagnosed with that allergy, we were new to severe allergies. He actually has a shellfish allergy too, but it's nowhere near the strength.
So
and
no
intensity.
lobster rolls for Brett.
No
And those are my other
lobster,
favorite,
No
so,
shrimp.
yeah.
So we knew how to navigate around allergies for him, or we thought we did. But because his isn't as severe, I mean, he gets some hives, he has to take Benadryl, but Benadryl will be sufficient.
Yep.
It was a totally different ballgame. So we stumbled upon the information about the oil really by accident because we were brand new and we eat Chick-fil-A all the time. So we grabbed Chick-fil-A and she literally had been diagnosed the night before, and I'm giving her little bits of chicken for her to eat off of her tray. And I look down at the box and it says made in 100% peanut oil. I
Yeah.
panicked because I'm like day one and I'm already screwing up. And so I grab her and there's no hives. There's no symptoms that I'm seeing, but I'm still just terrified because they had said it's going to get stronger. Each reaction she gets will get more dangerous. So I put her in the car and I took her to the ER. We show up. They keep monitoring her. Not one symptom. So then I started to dig online to see
Right.
what is happening. So what I found out is if a peanut oil is highly refined, they remove the proteins. And what I read was that it's the proteins that actually kids with peanut allergies are allergic to. So if that's removed, you're good to go. And if you're using a high-end peanut oil like Chick-fil-A does, it's highly refined. There's different levels of peanut oil. So for us, we don't even ask, do you use refined? Because most places you go to aren't like Disney. So we just stay away from peanut oil. If it says there's peanuts in any way, we just stay away from it. We don't ask the more technical questions. But since we stumbled upon Chick-fil-A by accident and we know that she's
Right.
okay with their oil, we eat there. She's been fine. We eat there all the time. So
I feel like even mentioning that on here, if I were a parent watching
Yikes.
this, it would still make me a bit nervous.
yeah,
And it should.
I
It should.
still
Yeah.
want to maybe consult your physician or ask
Right.
more questions about your local Chick-fil-A, or because I would hate for your particular son or daughter to have an allergy that is slightly different. Probably not even worse because our daughter's allergy is quite extreme, but maybe the sensitivity to refined peanut oil. That would be a unique allergy. There's allergies to everything.
yeah.
So just because we can do the refined peanut oil, not all peanut allergy children or adults can actually eat refined peanut oil.
Yeah, we're definitely not going to say what your child can and
Oh,
cannot
sure.
eat.
Sure. But learning about the peanut oil and the proteins, in the Star Wars basement, but the star just came over the table, and
There
the
it is.
more you know
The more you know.
slogan just came out with this lesson here, both legally and scientifically
Yes.
from the Williams. So
Yeah.
thank you very much for that. So that leads me into, we've talked about how to avoid it, the precautions you guys take, that there's a lot of options. What would you guys say is the one I can do this all day tip of the day when dealing with an allergy at the parks?
So I would say the I can do this all day tip of the day was found by Stephanie, your wife, on our last trip. And it was that you guys are very good at being efficient. You and Stephanie both are like,
That's
you're
how we live our
efficient.
life.
Yes, and I love it. I learn a lot from you. So,
Time is money, right?
Yeah, exactly right.
so we realized that because you guys suggested it, when you're in line, because for a lot of these restaurants, there's a line, you have to wait. Stephanie would run up and ask for the binder from someone on the side of the counter. They would give her the allergy binder. She would bring it back to all of us in line. And then we would start reviewing it while we were waiting in line. So then you're killing two birds with one stone because you're waiting in line and you're making
Right.
that time useful and more efficient. By the time you get up there, if they still want to ask for the chef, that's fine. You've already reviewed the ingredients, which can be time consuming.
Yep.
Yeah. So saves a lot of time, and make sure that when you get up there, you already have a lot of your information. So you're equipped, you're ready, and you can order when you get up there.
And if you have a reservation for a ride or maybe a show, you're not going to miss it.
Yeah.
Because it helps you.
And I bet the people behind you appreciate it.
Oh, I'm sure they do.
As an allergy family, we know the looks that can happen.
So my question there is, what would you call that I can do this all day tip? Or would you call that a trick?
Both?
There it is.
Yeah, there it is. It's the tip and the trick of the day.
There it is.
I would say, and especially if anyone from Disney's listening to this podcast, if there's an opportunity, add all the allergy stuff to the My Disney Experience app.
That'd be fantastic.
Then you've got it digitally. You don't need to ask for the binder, and you don't need to touch a binder that 80,000 other people have touched in the last 24 hours.
You
right,
would
Brett?
appreciate that.
I would appreciate it.
Yeah. Let's hand sanitizer.
Oh, I used a lot.
One thing I wanted to mention about the binders that I loved was they even have all the seasonal items. Like, you would think that they'd have a binder for the restaurant and all the main items, main menu items are on there. But even the seasonal items were represented so that she could partake in those fun seasonal things that are always so cute and adorable and delicious.
Epcot has a lot of those.
Yes.
Yeah.
Epcot's got a ton.
Those kiosks are always rotating and revolving with different items.
We were there during the food festival.
Yep. Food and wine.
Yep. So there was tons of different seasonal, just unique foods for just that time period we were there. And they had all of the information that we needed to be able to order safely for.
This is awesome, you guys. I have to say to our listeners out there, if you guys want to learn from the experts, these are them. Because like we said, when we came back, I was shocked.
Yeah,
we spent a week at the parks and we did all the Disney, we did all the Universal, and Brett's got bubble waffles with peanut butter on his face. And I'm worried about your poor daughter here that she's getting cross-contaminated all day long.
Listen, I didn't give her a kiss until I washed my face.
That's right.
Yeah.
We have protocols.
You got to be safe. But you guys obviously did a great job because being there all week and navigating the parks, and we ate at the parks all day, every day, to walk away from it without any incident, without any fear, without any problems or challenges at all. You guys did great. So kudos to you guys for being great parents.
I appreciate that. But I think it's also Disney, right? They have an excellent system. It's easy to utilize and they're so clean. Like, the parks are just clean. So if somebody were to drop their peanut butter bubble waffle, somebody's coming along real quick to clean it up.
They sure do.
I do feel that the Universal parks are catching on. So when it comes to other allergens, it's really easy for me with my shellfish allergy. I can avoid shellfish at most places. When it comes to a gluten-free allergy, or maybe it's soy for you, or it's dairy, ask a lot of those questions, because I think that they'll be accommodating in that. And they may say, which Universal was good about, they may say which restaurants to avoid, or which restaurants to consider. I remember the Today Cafe is a place that if you have a nut allergy, don't come anywhere near it, because they were very clear when we went to the Today Cafe that every single one of these pastries, while I'm looking at it, I'm like, it's blueberry, or I'm looking, no, you cannot, because there absolutely are nuts there. So that is a place, they even have signs up. Don't come here, don't shop here if you have a nut allergy.
It's interesting you say that they're catching up. You guys haven't even heard an episode that I actually just recorded this last week that I will release in a little bit of time here around who's got the better food experience overall, Disney versus Universal. And we talk at the end of that episode about Disney One. So if you haven't listened to it, go listen to it, because we have a lot of alerts. It's not a spoiler. You guys already knew that, but they have a lot of good tips on there. But we talk about at the end, the learning curve at Universal is steep, and they are catching up fast.
Sure they are.
And they're trying to keep up with Disney, and with their new parks, they're going to be right there. They will. So if you want to hear more about that, definitely go check out that episode about who's got the better food in the park. But I want to thank you guys for being on the episode today and talking about allergies. This has been fantastic. We want to keep this content coming to you guys. So if you have other questions or hot topics, please get on our Facebook page. Let us know. We will be sure to cover those. And we always love having Brett and Marissa on the show with us. You guys are so informative. Again, I'm going to just hang a star above you guys, the more you know. And we're just going to have that as a staple every time we bring you guys onto the show. But with that, we hope you guys have a magical week planning your next vacation to Disney or Universal. And we will talk to you guys next week. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Have a good one.